Welcome to this series of tips on how to answer common interview questions. In this video, we will consider one of the most feared questions, that is, tell us about a time you failed. So why is this asked? Well, no candidate ever specifies their failures on their CV. A responsibilities section has never been followed by achievements, and then a full list of failures. Failures are crucial attributes that interviewers are attempting to evaluate before making a decision. Any workplace will present problems, and it is crucial for the interviewer to understand how the candidate manages difficulties. Failure stories can be incredibly revealing, as they can offer insight into self-awareness, ability to grow, maturity, resilience, and how someone overcomes challenges. Recruiters want to make sure candidates have a positive attitude and mindset, because they are normally part of their personality and are unlikely to change. Interviewers often want to evaluate candidates' growth mentality, which is considerably more predictive of long-term success than perfection. Calmly and honestly explaining a failure can present a very credible and competent impression. Employers are interested in learning how past setbacks helped with personal development. These questions can helpfully determine a candidate's readiness to take chances and overcome obstacles. When an employer wants to assess culture fit, they will want to understand the candidate's capacity to handle difficulties, create innovative solutions, and recover. We have created a structure to help with answering this question, the ISSA formula. Identify the failure, make it clear in a sentence what kind of failure it is. Explain the failure, what happened, what caused it, and the consequences. Specify the result of the failure, specifically show the outcome and consequences. Explain the learning, what was learned. What mistakes were made and what could you have done better? Specify the solution, what was changed to make sure it did not happen again. Explain the impact on your growth and how this makes you both a strong candidate and a good match for them. Identify how this improved performance in the future. Be positive. Never fall into the trap of being negative in a job interview. It can kill a great interview and trigger bad reactions from the employer. Employers can think negatively about candidates if they appear not to be able to deal with tough situations. Prepare answers to these questions. Be careful. Think about how the answer will be heard, and practice delivering the answer with a positive, confident tone. Be careful when selecting failures to use in answers. Be honest about a real mistake from the past, if possible, a failure from more than 3 years ago. Choose a challenging situation, but not something that could have ended in disaster. And try to use a situation and a failure that is not important for the job being applied for. What not to do. In good companies, employers accept mistakes will be made. Actually, they are more focused on how candidates handle mistakes that are made rather than the mistake itself. Of course, they do not want repeated mistakes. Most people, though, cannot learn from a mistake if they do not acknowledge them in the first place. In addition, many of the world's best companies will not employ candidates who have not failed, recovered, and learned before. When answering, do not. Avoid taking responsibility for your failure. Be negative or defensive. Be unclear in answering. Blame other people. Downplay the implications of the failure. And do not make excuses. When selecting a failure, do not choose failures that could be seen to impact on your ability to successfully perform the key functions of the job applied for. Failures that say a lot about your personality and attitude rather than your actions. Failures that show repeated mistakes. And finally, failures that, although understandable, could create a doubt in the hiring manager that they might find it impossible to move forward with. Talking about failures under pressure is never easy, so preparing and practicing answers is very valuable. A model answer follows. I learnt preparation is the first step in effective pitching and performance. In my sales job at Zerco Limited in 2019, I worked with a possible customer who looked like they were ready to buy our market-leading but high-priced product. I had known the procurement director since 2015. We were both part of a project at Prop Limited, where we both worked after graduating. Due to our familiarity, her team skipped most of the common steps in the proposal stage. I did not do my usual amount of research to understand their business, not really grasping the specific benefits our product could offer and their teams needed. After making the sales pitch and answering questions about the product and maintenance agreement, I discovered I had completely misunderstood the customer's pain points and desired solution. This revelation threw me. I simply had no way of saving the pitch, and frankly, all I could do was secure an opportunity to come back and pitch again. The director could see my error, was not impressed but kind enough to give me a chance the following week. But it was simply a kindness, as it became clear by the time I came back, they had committed to one of our competitors. I had failed. I learned that every opportunity requires the same level of detailed research. I should never assume I know everything, and going through the process of research is great preparation. In sales, many things are out of our control, but practice is not one of them. I have never forgotten this. Ever since that happened, I have always conducted deep research, brainstorming, and role-playing exercises in preparation for each sales opportunity. During this process, which I conduct with both peers and my team, I seek feedback and train others to really push me to perform under pressure. This learning lesson, despite being painful at the time, has helped me improve my preparation, meetings, and results. I have also made this an important part of every member of my team's training, which I am convinced has driven better performance. On a positive note, our competitor did not do a great job. I had maintained contact with the procurement director, and this meant when they were open to a new pitch, I was ready. Needless to say, I made the best prepared pitch ever. This secured a large order, and we kept our competitor out for 3 years. Here is another model example, this time for a project manager. When a project is completed and many of the stakeholders are not completely satisfied with how it has been managed, I think it is a failure. Whilst at Zerco Limited 4 years ago, I made a mistake in how milestones were communicated to stakeholders. There were some demanding stakeholders who always pushed for dates to be brought forward. We completed most of the milestones in the first half of the project early. There was a lot of positive momentum, and I became both too optimistic and did not manage the expectations of these stakeholders effectively. They pushed for me to bring forward milestone dates, which I did by 2 weeks. In the end, we finished the project 1 week earlier than the original completion date, but for these stakeholders, all they saw was that we had completed it a week late. They only saw the revised dates, and this was a major lesson for me to learn. Since that day, I have been very disciplined in under-promising and over-delivering. I have protected buffers, released good news carefully, and been stronger. I learned that business teams will hear a new date, manage their staff, tasks and resources around them, and I will be accountable for any problems this causes. Since that project, I have managed stakeholders more carefully and accurately, which has led me to develop more credibility with stakeholders. I have learnt that stakeholders are more focused on accurate information and completion dates than the actual number of weeks a project is completed in. I am now successfully managing larger, more complex projects with more challenging stakeholders. I have developed my negotiation, listening, and persuasion skills. I no longer try to be popular, but instead I have been able to be seen as trusted and believed by stakeholders. At my current company, my bosses are now looking at me to both manage more challenging projects and train my staff to work the same way. You should assume you will be asked this question in critical interviews. Interviewers will expect you to handle this well, so please prepare a standard version. Then you can adapt it for each job application and importantly practice and practice again so that you can perform under pressure. Thank you for your time. I hope this video has been useful. There is a booklet that accompanies this video on the Doing Business in English website blog and many other job search resources. For further resources, please see our website.